Sammy Davis Jr. lived for his fans. In his final months, it was their prayers, their messages of hope that got him through. Today, those fans, many thousands of them, were on hand to pay tribute to the life of one of Hollywood's all-time great showmen.
For 30 years, a locked vault in Burbank sat in silence, its rent paid under a false name, its secrets untouched. It belonged to one of the most celebrated entertainers in American history, yet what was found inside would leave even seasoned investigators pale. Hidden letters, cryptic tapes, and evidence of a life lived in shadows were waiting to be uncovered. Who was the real Sammy Davis Jr.? And what truths did he fight so hard to keep buried? Join us as we look into how they opened Sammy Davis' secret vault after 30 years. Sammy Davis Jr.'s vault and his early life and career.
Sammy Davis Jr., whose power to entertain stretched from vaudeville to Vegas.
For 30 years, a storage unit in Burbank, California sat untouched, its rent quietly paid in cash each month under a false name. Few even knew it belonged to Sammy Davis Jr. When it was finally opened, what lay inside stunned those present. Beyond the stacks of showbiz memorabilia and worn stage costumes were sealed boxes containing private letters, reel-to-reel tapes, and manila envelopes marked with cryptic notes. Among them were documents revealing the true identity of his mother, tapes of conversations that could have ruined powerful figures, and records detailing the truth behind his rumored 1958 relationship with actress Kim Novak. Every detail had been meticulously documented by Sammy himself. The vault wasn't just a storage space, it was a time capsule of secrets. With its opening, long-buried truths emerged, pulling back the curtain on the carefully guarded life of a man who had spent decades in the public eye. Who's this man, and how did he get to the limelight? Stay tuned, the most interesting part is still ahead. Sammy Davis Jr. was born on December 8, 1925, in Harlem, New York City, to Sammy Davis Sr. and Elvira "Ella" Sanchez. Both parents were vaudeville performers, meaning their only child entered a world where show business was part of daily life. Yet from the beginning, parts of his heritage were deliberately hidden. His mother was Cuban, but in an America marked by strong anti-Cuban sentiment, this fact was suppressed to protect his career prospects. At the time, revealing such roots could cost an entertainer record sales and public support.
He called himself simply a saloon singer, and don't mistake that for false humility. That's exactly the way Sammy Davis. In his lifetime, Sammy fashioned his talent and his generous heart into a legend. He lived to entertain others, and he personified show business.
Even as an infant, Sammy's life was shaped by the realities of racism and the pressure to present a certain image to the public. Harlem, during the tail end of the Harlem Renaissance, buzzed with jazz, theater, and dance, a cultural backdrop that became his first stage. That vibrant environment nurtured his earliest performances and instilled in him a drive to captivate audiences even before he could fully understand the power of a spotlight. By the age of 2, Sammy was performing professionally with the Will Mastin Trio, alongside his father and family friend Will Mastin. While other toddlers played with blocks or toys, Sammy was learning to dance and sing on theater stages across the country. The constant travel meant he never experienced a typical childhood. Life on the road was demanding, but it hardened his resolve and sharpened his skills. Touring through segregated states exposed him early to the harshness of racial prejudice as he saw whites-only signs and felt the sting of discrimination. Those experiences planted a seed, a determination to succeed so completely that even prejudice couldn't ignore him. Mastin acted as both mentor and protector, but no one could shield him entirely from the realities of being a young black performer in mid-20th century America. Every stage he stepped onto was both a refuge and a battleground, where charm and talent became his armor. At age 3, Sammy's life shifted again when his parents separated. His father gained custody, and show business became an even greater constant in his life. Mastin's influence grew, shaping not just his stage presence, but his approach to adversity. Together, they navigated the demands of constant performance schedules while facing the unspoken barriers that kept black entertainers from certain venues and opportunities. Still, Sammy's abilities often transcended prejudice, momentarily dissolving it in the presence of his charisma. By 7, he had made his big-screen debut in the short musical comedy Rufus Jones for President.
Rufus Jones needs 100 more votes to cinch the election. All signs point to the discriminated election of Rufus Jones. Rufus Jones wins!
Starring alongside Ethel Waters. The film, while humorous, carried an underlying message, imagining a black boy as president at a time when such an idea was almost unthinkable. Sammy's charm lit up the screen, hinting at the career-defining magnetism that would one day make him one of the most famous entertainers in America. The demands of the stage meant Sammy never had a formal education in the traditional sense. There were no classrooms or school bells for him. His learning came from life on the road, from conversations with people he met, and from books he found along the way. He became self-taught in multiple disciplines, learning instruments, languages, and performance techniques through sheer curiosity and necessity. This unconventional education fed a mind that never stopped absorbing knowledge. He approached every skill with the same intensity he gave his performances, understanding that versatility would make him indispensable in the entertainment world. His hunger to learn matched his drive to perform, a combination that made him stand out in an industry where many were content to specialize. Sammy was proof that greatness could be forged outside traditional systems, emerging instead from passion, relentless work ethic, and an openness to learn from every experience. In 1943, at just 18 years old and standing 5 feet 6 inches tall, Sammy's path took an abrupt turn when he was drafted into the U.S. Army during World War II. He was placed in one of the first integrated units, but the promise of unity quickly collapsed under the weight of deep-seated racism. The first soldier he encountered greeted him with a racial slur, setting the tone for the abuse to come. In uniform, his talent carried no shield. Instead, he endured daily harassment, physical assaults, and deliberate humiliation. White soldiers subjected him to cruel pranks, including painting his skin white, lacing his drinks with urine, and physically attacking him. His nose was broken multiple times, and in one brutal incident, he was left tied to a tree in freezing temperatures. The military, meant to serve as an equalizer, instead became a place of relentless degradation, testing both his body and spirit. Despite the trauma, a turning point came when Sammy joined the Army's entertainment unit. On stage, even the men who had once tormented him couldn't deny his talent. Performing gave him back a measure of control and dignity, and their reluctant applause became fuel for his resilience. By the time he was discharged in 1951, Sammy had endured experiences that could have broken him, but instead, they strengthened his resolve to claim his place in show business. That opportunity came at Cairo's, a glamorous nightclub on Sunset Boulevard, where he began to captivate Hollywood's elite.
CNN's Sherry Claypool recalls the life and times of one of Hollywood's most beloved entertainers. Sammy Davis Junior was a man who literally worked all his life. Born in Harlem in 1925,
the same determination that had carried him through childhood and the horrors of the Army now propelled him toward the career that would make him a household name. How did this happen? And who were those present that night? Let's get into it. Rise to fame and matters of the heart. In March 1951, Sammy Davis Junior, still part of the Will Maston trio, got a break opening for Janice Page. The show was electric, but the real magic came after the Academy Awards that year. The crowd that night read like a Hollywood dream. Humphrey Bogart, Lauren Bacall, Cary Grant, Marilyn Monroe, and Judy Garland. Sammy's performance left the room stunned, and within hours, the buzz spread across town. He was suddenly the talk of Los Angeles. By 1952, he was appearing on Eddie Cantor's Colgate Comedy Hour and even landed a $20,000 ABC TV pilot, an unheard-of offer for a black entertainer then. Though it lacked sponsors, the momentum was unstoppable. His act, Sierra Rose, drew rave reviews and bookings poured in. Just 3 years later, on the brink of even greater success, tragedy struck on a dark stretch of Route 66. What is this tragedy? You're at the edge of your seat, and it's about to get even better. On November 19th, 1954, driving his Cadillac from Las Vegas to Los Angeles, Sammy's life changed in seconds. Another car swerved into his lane, and the crash drove the horn button into his left eye, destroying it. He was only 29. Doctors at community hospital couldn't save the eye, and he spent just 9 days recovering before leaving. At first, he wore an eye patch, later replacing it with a glass eye, and even joked about it on stage. Friends like Frank Sinatra stood firmly by him, and ironically, his performance fees tripled. The accident also sparked a profound spiritual shift. While resting, he studied Jewish history and felt a deep connection to its struggles. In 1960, he officially converted, calling himself a black man and a Jew, a combination he believed made him stronger. This resilience became central to his identity, both personally and professionally. Despite his fame, the 1950s brought harsh racism. In Las Vegas, he could headline a major show yet be barred from staying in the hotel where he performed or even walking through its front doors. Sammy refused to accept it. With the Rat Pack's backing, he pressured casinos to change their policies. By the early 60s, he was earning $25,000 a week at the Sands and became the first black entertainer to stay at the Frontier. These victories paved the way for Nevada to officially end hotel segregation in 1971. Beyond his civil rights efforts, Sammy's stage skills were unmatched. He could sing, dance, act, mimic voices, play multiple instruments, and even perform gun tricks. In 1956, he starred in Broadway's Mr. Wonderful, a show written just for him, rare for a black performer. Critics panned it, but audiences loved it, keeping it running for 383 performances. The late 1950s and early 1960s brought bigger challenges and bolder choices. In 1964, he starred in Golden Boy, portraying a black boxer in love with a white woman. Their onstage kiss outraged many, sparking bomb threats and hate mail, but Sammy refused to cut it. His performance earned him a Tony nomination, and the show pushed audiences to confront uncomfortable truths. Offstage, he marched alongside Martin Luther King Jr. in Selma, risking his career for civil rights. Film roles expanded his reach. Anna Lucasta in 1958, Porgy and Bess in 1959 with Sidney Poitier and Dorothy Dandridge, and Sweet Charity in 1969. His Rat Pack films, including Ocean's 11 and Robin and the Seven Hoods, showcased him as more than a sidekick. He was an equal star. Each step challenged Hollywood's racial boundaries, proving talent could outshine prejudice, even in the most segregated corners of entertainment.
The entertainment world's gift to international politics, James Handlebars Edwards, using his time well. Sammy Davis Junior, possibly the most versatile performer of the day.
But Sammy's personal life often made headlines too. In 1957, he fell in love with actress Kim Novak, then one of Hollywood's brightest stars. The relationship was risky. Only a tiny fraction of Americans supported interracial romance. They met secretly, hiding from paparazzi. But a false engagement rumor in 1958 unleashed chaos. Studios panicked, and the mob intervened, warning Sammy to end it or face violent consequences. Terrified, he abruptly married singer Lorraine White in a sham arrangement, paying her for appearances. The marriage dissolved within months, leaving Sammy emotionally wrecked. In 1960, he married Swedish actress May Britt, defying America's segregationist norms. The wedding drew threats, lost them jobs, and invited constant harassment, but the couple persisted, raising 3 children together. Their union became a symbol of defiance, even as the personal toll, career damage, public hate, and family strain eventually led to divorce in 1968. After the split, Sammy spiraled into drugs, alcohol, and reckless spending. Cocaine and amyl nitrate fueled wild Beverly Hills parties even as his stage work remained sharp. His gambling addiction devoured much of the fortune he earned, reportedly $50 million over his career. Unlike Sinatra, his debts weren't forgiven, and bad investments worsened his financial ruin. Yet he still found career highs. In 1972, the Candyman unexpectedly hit #1 on the Billboard charts, selling over 2 million copies. Although he disliked the song at first, its upbeat charm won audiences over. His earlier anthem, I've Gotta Be Me, released in 1968, became a declaration of self-worth, resonating with his lifelong fight for acceptance. By the 1970s, he was a Las Vegas institution, dazzling crowds with shows blending music, comedy, and dance, while continuing to push for racial equality in the entertainment world. Sammy's later years were marked by both triumphs and troubles. His 1970 marriage to dancer Altovise Gore brought some stability, though their home remained a hub for late-night parties and rumors of excess. They adopted a son, Manny, in 1989, just a year before Sammy's death. Through addiction battles, career comebacks, and mounting IRS debts, over $7 million by the end, he kept performing, driven by an almost unmatched work ethic. His television appearances, including The Ed Sullivan Show and his own 1966 NBC variety series, broke racial barriers for future black entertainers. In Las Vegas, where he once couldn't walk through the front door, casino marquees now bore his name in lights. When he died in 1990, the city dimmed its lights in his honor. Sammy Davis Jr. had lived a life of dazzling highs and devastating lows, but his influence remained untouchable. What then was the content of the vault found after his death? Let's dig deeper. Inside Sammy Davis Jr.'s hidden vault. When authorities pried open the Burbank storage locker, they didn't find drugs, weapons, or dangerous chemicals as some feared. Instead, the space revealed a collection that could only belong to a man who had lived a life under bright lights. Trumpets, a vintage record player, and a jukebox stocked with records, one of them his own hit, The Candyman, lined the walls. Clothing, stage costumes, and stacks of photographs told the story of an entertainer who seemed to live for the audience. Official records were mixed in with personal mementos, a blend of public legacy and private memory. As mentioned earlier, this vault had been untouched for decades, and now the Internal Revenue Service was eager to claim its contents. What looked like sentimental keepsakes could now serve as currency to settle a staggering debt. Now let's sit tight. Let's see how the discovery came about. The discovery wasn't accidental. It began when 28-year-old Matthias Horenchik received an unexpected bill for $365 from a storage company. The problem? He had never rented any storage unit. When he confronted the facility's manager, suspicion grew that the space might conceal something illegal. Police were alerted, the lock was cut, and instead of contraband, Sammy Davis Jr.'s personal effects spilled into view. Investigators soon learned the unit had been rented with Horenchik's stolen identification, 2 weeks after a public auction had already sold off hundreds of Davis's possessions. Whoever was behind the rental had paid in cash, keeping the trail cold until those missed payments forced the secret into the open. Authorities traced the rental back to an employee of Altovise Davis, Sammy's widow. According to police, this employee admitted helping to hide remaining property so the IRS couldn't seize it. He even enlisted a friend, whose name he refused to reveal, to secure the storage unit under false credentials. Whether out of loyalty, desperation, or both, the move skirted dangerously close to obstruction. Still, no arrests were made. The Burbank police handed the case to federal agents, who saw the collection less as evidence of a crime and more as collateral for debt. With tax liens nearing $5.7 million, every artifact was suddenly more than history. It was a bargaining chip. The contents of the locker hinted at the magnitude of Sammy's financial downfall. His Beverly Hills mansion, once an 11,000 square foot symbol of success, was already under contract for just over $2.7 million, but most of that would vanish into mortgage payments. Auction records showed that items from his estate fetched high sums: $11,000 for a pair of tap shoes, over $7,000 for a set of canes. Yet the vault's untouched possessions had slipped past the gavel, tucked away in hopes of preservation or concealment. Some pieces, like the photographs with Altavice, had purely personal value. Others, like signed memorabilia and instruments, could draw serious bids. To the IRS, sentiment didn't matter, only market price. For collectors, this was a gold mine. For friends and family, it was a bittersweet reopening of wounds. The jukebox, the trumpet, the costumes, these weren't just props from a career. They were fragments of Sammy himself. Each artifact carried the weight of the man's charisma, the nights of standing ovations, and the private moments between shows. Yet here they were, cataloged as assets, stripped of their context. The IRS insisted seizure was the last resort, but with millions owed, they were prepared to act. This vault, once hidden behind a false name, now stood exposed to the highest bidder, or the government's ledger. In either case, it would never again be just a storage space. And with its final opening, so too closed the last untouched chapter of Sammy Davis Jr.'s complicated, remarkable life story forever. What hidden truths about Sammy Davis Jr.'s life might still be waiting to be uncovered, and how would they change the way the world remembers him? If a vault could hold the untold story of an entire life, what would yours reveal to those who open it decades from now? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to check out the next video on your screen. You will enjoy it.